The Korean brand reputation ranking is neither relevant nor reliable to people who are jealous of Park Jimin. Park Jimin has been the #1 ranked celebrity in terms of brand reputation for 18 months. Holy cow. It's been so long, so it's expected that some people are going to start being impatient that their favorites haven't gotten to the #1 position yet. And when you want something and you can't get it, the best thing to do is to try and question the reliability and credibility of that thing. It is sour graping at its finest. Okay, so the brand reputation ranking is conducted by the Korean Business Research Institute, or KBRI. They do this monthly. It is they are actually, the KBRI is actually the leading and the most credible, considered the most credible research institute in South Korea. They're not the only one. There's a lot of other research companies out there. Like, I do believe Beyonce has one. I think Honda has one. So they do conduct their own research, but KBRI is considered the most reliable, the most objective, and they've been there the longest, and also the most accurate. Now, the Kpop brand reputation ranking is just one of the many that they do on a monthly basis and on a yearly basis. Some they do on their own, some are commissioned, some are they work with the government for certain things and stuff. But Kpop brand reputation ranking is just one of the many. They research about consumer buying habits, product trends. They research about technologies, and they do both quantitative and qualitative research. I'm sure you know what that means. They also research about new asset classes, if there's something new that's being developed and are being put out there. They research about that, influences, motivations, and yeah. So K-pop brand reputation ranking is just one of the many that they do. So why do they do this? Why do they even include why do they do all of those business research, technology research, product research, and why do they even include celebrities in here? They do that to help the development of new products, to improve business processes, and of course it helps in marketing, advertising. It provides an insight on how the consumers are thinking. It provides an insights on how the consumer needs are changing. If the consumer needs are changing, the new product should be developed. If their habits are changing, then it says something about the technology or the culture in general. So some of the business research that they do actually involves actual companies, like the desirability of companies for employees. Like, what are the top companies that people like working for, or where their employees are happiest, for example. They do all of those studies. Why? Because when a company, for example, is the most desired company by employees, then you know that they're doing something good. Then you can study further what are the employee benefits, the corporate culture that they have in place. Maybe that will contribute to the development of new regulations that involve employees. Another layer to that is PR. If a company is desired by many employees, then you know that it's going to attract the best talents, and of course companies want the best talents. Yeah, so those are some of the examples of business research. They look at trends, like, for example, they look at the change of investments, for example, like people that are investing, from the shift to conservative investments to more aggressive investment classes. I don't know if cryptocurrency, for example, is legal in South Korea, but they study those, like, what are the asset classes that people are starting to invest in, because it provides them an insight in terms of how people are thinking about their money and their future and their lifestyle. So stuff like that. They do include the research in celebrities because celebrities are a huge part in the promotion, marketing, and advertising of brands. Not all products or brands or services actually need or require, or they even choose to go to celebrities for marketing and advertising, but they are undoubtedly a huge influence. They are a huge factor, and so that's why they study them. Knowing the number one idol isn't really about the popularity. For example, if I'm I am a marketer, I've been doing marketing for God knows when, but since time immemorial. So as a marketing person, if I look at a study about the most popular celebrities, I will not just look at the most popular celebrity. For example, here for the brand reputation ranking, see Park Jimin and say, hey, my brand needs Park Jimin. it's not automatic. Because what if, for example, my brand isn't really it's not really pop, then he's not the right person for me. So I can probably just look down the list and see, okay, which celebrity is consistent with my brand and my brand image. Then I'll go for that. But more importantly, that research has insights, and that's what's more important for me. So for example, let's just say there's GD of Big Bang. This is just an example. I don't know if this is true. This is just an example. If I see that GD of Big Bang has been on the list for the past 5 years and he has been inactive for the past 6, so then I need to know, hey, how did he build his own brand, right? How did he manage to stay on top of the consciousness of the public despite not being active in the music industry? So then I can further dive into the categories and the data that they have. So for example, if they study, for example, media mentions and media articles, conversations from the public, and then all of those advertisements that he does and all of the videos that he come out with and whatever. So then I'll find out, oh, so he doesn't have a lot of conversations, but he has a lot of media write-ups. Then I can further zero in on that. Like, what are they writing about? Oh, they are writing about the causes that he's supporting and the fashion brands that he's launching, or the fashion brands that he's partnering with. So he may not be active in music, but he's making up for it by doing other things that is attracting media attention. I hope that makes sense. So, or maybe I can further dive into Park Jimin because he's been there for 18 months. What is he doing right? So I can dive into the data and see, maybe this is just an example. Maybe I'll see, oh, he doesn't really have a lot of write-ups from media, but he has a lot of conversations. He has 10 over 10 in terms of conversations, but it's just 4 over 10 in terms of media write-ups. So maybe I'll dive into those conversations. What are they saying about him? So it could be the opposite. It could also be the media exposure. Like, I can look at that and see, oh, they talk about the charity donations that he has. He writes about that. They write about that. They write about his dog. They write about his LGBTQ support and stuff. And so then I'll know, oh, okay, so people are interested in his causes, the causes that he supports, and so that's what the media is writing about. So then I can further dive into that. So for example, if they write about his fashion, and that's one of the things that they are often writing about, this are all just example, then I can further study Park Jimin. What kind of fashion statement does he put out? Like, what kind of fashion is he into? If I'm a fashion brand, then that's a very valuable insight for me. So it's not just, it has a lot of layers into that, is the point. It's not just about the ranking itself, but what it reveals to me as a marketer, or as an advertiser, or as a business owner, or as a product developer. Now, the next question is, does it really reflect the popularity of a K-pop idol? It does not. The research was never designed to measure who has the most number of fans. What it measures is the buzz that a certain celebrity creates. Now, you can argue that once a that it means because he's creating so much buzz that he has most fans. You can argue that. You're free to argue that. But the research itself was not designed for that. The algorithm that was put in place was not to measure the fans that a celebrity has. It was meant to measure the buzz that celebrity is creating. However, the other thing that it is able to do is to weed out the noise. If you, for example, just rely on Twitter, there's a lot of noisy, loud people on Twitter, and the noisy doesn't necessarily represent the majority. They're just noisy. And also, Twitter is just Twitter. So the trends in Twitter does not reflect global trends. It reflects Twitter trends. So what KBRI does is aggregate all of those different sources online and come up with the most objective, statistically sound way of measuring trends. I hope that makes sense. So next question, is it really possible to measure trends? Sure, anything digital may be measured. It can be measured. If you ask or question is reliability, it is the same as the reliability of, for example, Google. Google has an algorithm in place that measures the relevance and credibility of sources based on a query. So for example, if I search for what is the best diet strategy if I want to lose 10 pounds, and then it's gonna provide me results, right? So there's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 up to whatever. It's Google's algorithm that decides that these are the results that's most relevant to you, so this is what I'm going to push to you. There's no person behind it. That's an algorithm that they designed and programmed. So it's the same thing with Korean Brand Reputation Institute. There's an algorithm that they use to aggregate all these results, all this buzz, and all this talk, all this contents online, and they measure the result based on that algorithm. Is it possible to manipulate it? Sure. The same way Google search result may be manipulated, Facebook trends may be manipulated, Twitter trends may be manipulated, maybe not Twitter, but yeah, it is possible. But it is way easier to manipulate trends in YouTube or Twitter, because you're just manipulating a trend in one platform. So you know that, hey, if we watch this video 75,000 times, then that's going to reflect 75,000 views in there, for as long as we follow the guidelines. Same thing with Twitter. You know, we keep on tweeting something, at some point it's going to trend. But for Korean Business Research Institute, you will need to be everywhere. All the sources that they are measuring, you're gonna have to be all over for you to be able to manipulate it. So the Korean Brand Reputation Institute is not there for K-pop fans. It was created for businesses to gain insights, to help businesses in product development, developing their processes, whether that's a product development process or whatever, to help in marketing, advertising, to help regulations understand the consumers, the consumer trends, market consumption, and all of those. So they don't really care about whether or not the K-pop fans like what the results that they're putting out or the process that they're using. For them, it is all about businesses, and businesses also don't care about Twitter opinions or whatever. It's one of the things that they consider, but they don't base their decision solely on that. That's dangerous. They care about results. You know, they want to improve their products, they want to improve their marketing, they want to improve their processes, and so they will they will get the data that is most reliable and most credible. Now, if they keep on basing their decisions on those data and it doesn't work, then it is not healthy for the research company. So it is in KBRI's best interest to be as objective, as credible, as updated and relevant as they can be. So don't be salty. I'm sure at some point Park Jimin is going to come down from the pedestal, and your favorite is going to take the #1 place. Just, I think the best thing to do is to not really pay. If you hate somebody, if you hate a celebrity, just don't pay attention to that celebrity. Just, channel all of your energy and your focus into supporting your idol, because that's going to help a whole lot more than bashing or trying to question somebody else, or hating on somebody. So there's another question, sorry, before I close this, there's another question about the brand KBRI, the brand reputation ranking doesn't really reflect positive view of a celebrity, because there was a time when Yoonjin, I think it was the Stray Kids member, he got involved in this bullying scandal and he still ranked high in KBRI. Do remember that KBRI actually gets their data from all over, from different sources, and not just from Naver and Twitter. So, and Naver and Twitter, there's a lot of noise in there. The loud are really loud, so they can, it can appear as if there's more haters than there are supporters, because there's a lot of supporters who just don't talk. That's just a proven one. Like, when people are happy, they don't really say something. They're more likely to say something when they're hating on something or they're not satisfied. And so usually the haters are louder than the supporters. So there's KBRI don't just measure two sources, Twitter or Naver. They go to a whole lot of other platforms and different sources in order to measure the brand reputation of a K-pop artist, or any kind of brand for that matter. So always remember that when somebody's hating, when there's too much hate that you see and read online, it does not reflect reality. Those are just, they're just loud, but it does not necessarily mean that they represent the majority. So there you have it. As I've said, don't be salty. At some point, I'm sure Park Jimin is going to come down from that #1, and your fave will have a chance. So just keep on supporting your favorite. That's a way better thing to do than spread hate on somebody else. Good luck.